recently earned the Thrayir Eyes of the Siren mount from Siren Owl, and the one thing I've noticed is a lot of people complaining about how difficult and frustrating this mount is to obtain, when I actually found it to be pretty easy. At least, it didn't make me want to tear my hair out. So I thought I'd do this short guide on the strategy that I use to farm Thrayir in a relatively painless way, as well as provide some interesting lore behind this mount. Just one note, it's probably going to get harder to complete some of these steps as more and more people leave Siren Owl, so if you do want Thrayir, the sooner you start farming, the better. Thrayir is a mount that was actually first discovered in the database during Mists of Pandaria, so we've really been waiting to get our hands on it for a long time. In the lore, Thrayir was tamed by the Vrykul Circe many centuries ago, and if you want to know more about Circe, the Siren of Siren Owl, you should check out my lore video about it. But to summarize Thrayir's story, this Stormcrow is actually the reason for the storms around Siren Owl. After the Sundering, dark forces attacked the owl in an effort to claim the crystal Himosol, and Thrayir summoned the storms in response. But he was badly injured in the battle, and the fury he had summoned was causing him to unravel. So Circe trusted her beloved Stormcrow with the Vrykul Valwyn. In order to stabilize the creature, Valwyn enlisted the help of fellow Vrykul Cyclonic, who wielded the blessings of the storms. Together, they sealed Thrayir in a stasis where his wounds could slowly heal over time. And to make sure he wouldn't be disturbed, they forged 5 Runekeys. Only the wielder of all 5 would be able to break the stasis. The 5 Runekeys are the Whirling Runekey, the Turbulent Runekey, the Cyclonic Runekey, the Thunderous Runekey, and the Torrential Runekey. The Thunderous and Torrential Runekeys are created from fragments that require farming, so from the start you want to be aware of how to obtain them, because you may be able to do a little farming while going after the others. Thunderous fragments drop from chests, supposedly during both Siren Owl's phases. I only found them in the storm phase, but open chests in both phases just in case. And torrential fragments drop from mobs during the storm. I'll go into more detail on how to effectively farm both of these later in the video, but for now there are 2 things you'll want to make sure you're doing from the start. First, always make sure you loot any mobs you kill in the storm phase. And second, watch out for the swirly effect around your character. These will only show up if you've completed the quest Uncovered Mysteries. It's part of the main campaign, so you should have it by now. And they show the way to chests that often have thunderous fragments in them. With that out of the way, let's start with the Whirling Runekey, because Fear kept this one on him, and luckily his golden spirit still haunts the Vault of the Forgotten, where you can find him during Siren Owl's storm phase. To enter this phase, you will need to have completed Siren Owl's weekly quest, after which you can talk to Sally Boltwrench to enter the storm. Even if Kasfir isn't in the Forgotten Vault at first, he seems to respawn pretty quickly, so it's worth hanging around. The Whirling Runekey is a guaranteed drop, so you should be able to get this one very quickly. If you aren't seeing it, consider checking your bags. Because you may have been in the Forgotten Vault during the storm phase already, and we tend to instinctively kill rares when we see them, this one's very easy to have looted without realizing it. Next, you'll want to go after the Turbulent Runekey. This key is divided up into 3 turbulent fragments that can only be found during the storm phase. One is in the hands of a Kulturant ghost in the spirit-scarred cave. Another ghost can be seen burying a fragment behind the Sultan Shanty, and the last one can be found near a ghost that looks pretty scared in a small cave southwest of the island. Once you have all 3, simply combine them together to form the Turbulent Runekey. Now it's time to start farming the Cyclonic Runekey. This key can be dropped from the boss Zekul the Shipbreaker, who spawns only during the storm phase, or it can be fished up from the waters around where Zekul spawns. And from the comments on Wowhead, fishing up the key is faster. That said, I preferred killing the boss. It is a fairly low drop rate, so it can take some time. But if you keep an eye on the group finder, you can create and join groups, which will mean you'll be able to kill this boss many more times than you would have if you just hung around on your own realm waiting for him to spawn. I farmed this key on a Saturday, when there were plenty of groups up pretty much all the time. It only took about half an hour to drop, so I did get a bit lucky. If you are finding this farm too frustrating, consider fishing instead. Now, the Thunderous Runekey is actually pretty easy to farm. I farmed it twice because I changed the character that I was using to go after this mount halfway through, and it was very quick both times. You're going to need 5 Thunderous fragments, which drop from chests. Don't waste your time swimming around after seafarers' caches or anything like that. Instead, focus on opening Ruined Storm caches during the storm phase. They're apparently supposed to be able to drop in both phases, but I've only ever seen them during the storm phase. I don't know if that's because they have a higher drop rate, or if it was changed, or whatever it is, but let's just say I'm a little bit superstitious about it. They also may have an even higher drop chance inside the Forgotten Vault. 4 chests spawn here, and whenever I checked them, at least 2 of the 4 had fragments. As I mentioned before, these chests are only available once you finish the quest Uncovered Mysteries from the main quest line, which is also automatically completed on any alt that does the Siren Owl quest skip. They can be found all over the island, and when you get near to one, a swirly effect will lead you right to it, so just run around during the storm phase opening chests until you have all 5 fragments. Which brings us to the last and worst one, the Torrential Runekey. This key requires collecting 7 torrential fragments, and of all of the fragments, these are the rarest and hardest to find. The torrential fragments have a small, and I mean tiny, chance to drop from mobs during Siren Owl's storm phase, and as is so often the case, players have worked out the best place to farm them, right outside the Forgotten Vault over here. This is another farm where you'll want to use the group finder. Torrential farm groups are almost always up. Don't join a raid group. It might seem like a better idea because more players equals more kills, but it'll mean you'll only be able to loot mobs you personally hit. Instead, join 5 people groups and, this is important, go fetch a TR-06 pummeler. This mecha suit will help you mow down enemies at full speed, collecting large piles of corpses to loot from. If you can't use this suit, you may need to complete the quest juicing up and storming out first. Now, I'm not a fan of farming endlessly for hours on end, so my strategy for torrential fragment farming was to get in a suit, join a group, and then farm only until a fragment dropped. Then, because I heard a rumor that the first fragment per hour has a higher drop rate, and no, I don't know if that's true, but again, I can be a bit superstitious about these things, I'd wait at least an hour before I'd go again. 2 out of the 7 fragments dropped in the first 5 minutes of farming, 4 in the first half hour. 1 had dropped from Zekul. The second last fragment took over 40 minutes to farm, but by that time I had decided to keep going until the mech suit I was in ran out, and the last one dropped in that time, so less than quarter of an hour. All in all, I do think taking breaks between fragments is a good idea, if for no other reason than it helps prevent the brain melting effect of doing the same monotonous task for hours on ends without breaks. I did decide to test out my torrential farm strategy briefly on an alt and picked up a fragment during the first 8 minutes of farming, so I really think my method is the best one. Once you have all 7 fragments, combine them to create the Torrential Runekey. Now, once you have all 5 Runekeys, all you need to do now is head to the Forbidden Vault, again during the storm phase, and activate the 5 rune stones that are around Thrayir. This will wake him from his stasis and he'll be happy to join your mount journal right away. And that's it! Enjoy your new mount! If you enjoyed this video, feel free to like, subscribe, comment, all that good YouTube stuff. You can also support me on Patreon. It's these wonderful people whose names you're seeing right now who help keep this channel alive. Finally, you can find me on Blue Sky and Twitch, where I'm always happy to talk about all things lore. So while that's all for now, hopefully I'll see you again soon.